Hi, everybody. Welcome to Boulton from Boulton, which is fast becoming insert guest name from Boulton and Boulton. Today, we invite on another former teammate and friend whose wide experience in the game offers multiple perspectives with a career spanning from his playing days to include coaching, training, and even scouting across various levels, and with loads of success along the way, I might add. Josh and I are happy to welcome Geoff Carter on the show. Carts, what's up, man?
Fellas, how's it going? Thanks for having me on. This is awesome.
All right. And Josh, great. Yeah, well, let's get Josh turned on too. How are you doing there, Josh?
I'm good. Thanks for including me.
Yeah, very good. And I guess just to start off, we better address the elephant on your face. What happened there?
I had a minor disagreement with the corner at the boards of playing hockey, and the boards won.
All right. Folks, that is a hockey player's face. All right. And we love it. It's a beauty. All right, guys. So, Carts, I guess we'll just start off just a little bit to get going on growing up in youth hockey. Can you start out by giving us a brief history of that? Where are you from and how you got started in hockey?
Well, grew up in Halifax, was actually born in Nassau, Bahamas. And then we moved back when I was about 4.5 and got on skates at about 7. At the good old Dalhousie University hockey camp, power skating with Daryl Young.
All right.
And
awesome.
And then, played for the Halifax Capitals until we amalgamated with, it was Halifax Hawks, or the Centennial Hawks.
Yeah.
Geez, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Up in Clayton Park there. And that's when we joined in with like Dougie Clark and Tim Boyce and Daryl Cameron and all those boys from Fairview in that way. And from Pee Wee to first year midget AAA with the McDonald's. And then I went down to prep school in Boston for 2 years at Noble and Greenough. And then the stars lined up and I got to play for the Bearcats with you fellas.
All right, man. Just keep it. It's a little bit on minor hockey. Who were the biggest rivals back in the day for the Hawks? And I was going to ask you, I'm glad you said you were the Capitals originally, and then it was the Centennial Hawks merged to become the Halifax Hawks. Who were some of the big rivals around you in your era?
Oh, man. You had, of course, you guys over in Cole Harbour. Every second year having to face the two Boltons was stressful. And then Tassa usually had they had a good team with their second year guys. They had like Jeff Bennett and Ray Turner.
Breakaway Ray.
Yeah, man. Geez, good hockey players. And that was always a good battle. But I think the big battles for Halifax were Shabukto, Dartmouth, Cole Harbour. You know, he had all those big rivalries against those guys. And I mean, obviously it was terrifying experience when you had to go to the rural area and play Pictou or Andy Ganesh, but
oh man,
yeah.
Anyway, that was beautiful. What are some general highlights or memories of your minor hockey days? Just give me the minor hockey vibe. Anything you got?
Man, it just you really remember, your first year going into a level and that previous year watching the guys that were a year ahead of you and going, holy cow, I don't know if I can ever play at that level. And you get to the chance to play that level and you're playing next along these guys. And, it was always fun to see, the progression of everybody else as long as yourself growing up through minor hockey. And some of the big things, man, my second year with Halifax, we went up to Inverness for the provincial finals. And Bantam AAA. Yeah. And it was in Inverness and we lost to Pictou in overtime, I think it was, of course. But that was one of the big memories. I remember how we had a pretty good team my second year Bantam AAA. We had some good hockey players on that team. We just kind of had a good season and cards lined up to get into a final against Pictou, and Pictou won, and they went on. I think they went on and won the Atlantics that year too. They had a good hockey team. Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, Josh. You have something there?
No, I think I think that was the famous Bantam provincials that I was telling you about, that Timmy Boyce was talking about one year on Facebook, and all those guys were kind of reminiscent. It just seemed to be like a very important tournament that everyone remembers. I don't really know
Yeah,
what's.
yeah.
It was just a special group of players. Every team seemed so strong. It was so fun. And I was going to ask you one thing about minor hockey with COVID. As a minor hockey president, this kind of interests me because in Cole Harbour, I remember we had 6:30 in the morning practices. And East Hants this year, because of COVID, had to offer before school practices, and the parents were kind of upset about it, and having to. And I'm just wondering, like, was that a common thing? It was common to me. I'm thinking, like, this is awesome, going back to the old days, 6:30 in the morning practices. Did you ever have practices before school in Halifax?
You know what? I think I don't remember too many, but I remember like Saturday morning in Bantam, we had an 8 a.m. practice at St. Mary's Arena, the old rink. It was probably one of the coldest rinks in the city.
Yeah,
and it was freezing. And Tom Duffy, I can just remember him out there wheeling around, blowing his whistle, skating us into the ground. I remember we had a 4-hour. It was 2 practices, but 4 hours of no puck practice. He shot the puck over the glass and said, "That's the last puck you'll see for the next 2 practices." And that was. Can you imagine doing that now?
That's an old school coaching, is it? I'll tell you what, Carts, that's interesting. Saturday morning practices. I mean, back in the day for us, there wasn't on demand. It was all Saturday morning cartoons was big, and Saturday morning practices and those cartoons killed many a hockey career before it even got off the ground. Some kids are like, "I'm not playing hockey if you're going to play Saturday mornings."
Yeah.
Carts, I know he was number 12. Were you always number 12 growing up, or how did you get to have that number? And do you even care about numbers?
Numbers weren't really a big thing, and it was funny because when I was in the mix with Truro, all the good numbers were taken: 14, 11, 7.
Wait a second.
Hold on here.
Wait, I know what you're doing. I thought you were serious.
So 12 just kind of stuck out, and I just grabbed that one up, and it was kind of rode with that one for the next 3 years of hockey. So, but I never really had like a go-to number.
Okay. I guess last on minor hockey, do you recall anything in your days with the Max? Any special things about midget hockey before we move into the next level?
Midget with the McDonald's. The guys on the team were a great group of guys. Yeah. I guess I didn't really per se have the greatest experience. Okay. Just coaching conflicts, and just the little things that came in. I had a good time with the guys, but my mind was more in a different direction than everybody there. A lot of guys were looking to go the Quebec Major Junior route, and I was kind of focusing on getting down to Boston and hopefully getting a scholarship to NCAA down there and going that route. So my brain was almost already in Boston before the midget AAA season started.
Okay.
Now, was that at a time, just curious, I remember, I feel like it was Craig Hillier was one of the last years. Did you have to play in the Quebec League at your time, or was there still the option to go to the OHL and the WHL?
You know what? I don't even remember, but I think we could go to the OHL because there was a bunch of guys that did leave and went and played in the OHL.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But I can't remember. That's a good one.
Yeah. That it wasn't long after that before that became not a thing, but it is true. I think around our age we could go to the O back in the day, and then it became only Quebec.
Yeah.
It is a good question, but we don't have answers here. That's what we're all about. All right.
So it just might be interesting for people to know that we used to have the option to go to the OHL and out west, and now you don't have the option.
No. You have to be 18 now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what I hope. That's what I like doing in some of these, because some guests come with something that's just like, oh, back then this happened. I go, oh yeah, that's how this is like what the rule was, or like even within the game itself, like, no trapezoid or whatever. I don't know, but just so many fun things like that. Yeah. So what is it, Cartsy? So what about Boston then? Is this is your year before you came to the Cats, right?
Yeah, these were the 2 years before. So they made me repeat grade 11. So I was supposed to graduate in 96 from high school. but they held you back a year so you could get 2 years of exposure instead of just one. Had 2 years down there, and my senior year, the third exhibition game into the season, was zipping up the ice and caught a rut and went pretty much right down to my tuck into the ice and got hit and kind of fractured my ankle and tore it all apart. And so I think I only played about 5 games my senior year. Was talking with Northeastern at the time, and they said, go back home and play junior hockey for a couple of years, and then we'll get you down here. So that's kind of how that played out for me as far as being down there. The education was fantastic. The hockey was great hockey, played against some pretty good hockey players and with some pretty good hockey players. And then, came back home.
Well, that's outstanding, buddy. I do want to we will, of course, obviously get to junior talk, and that's a big part of this fun with the teammates. But I do want to go through your coaching career and all that. I think this is, something that you're going to bring a lot of gold to this talk today. So when and how did you first get into coaching at all?
So when I finished, after the Bearcats, I went down to Florida and played in the Southern Elite Hockey Fun League or whatever. And actually, Framer came down with me. I think he only lasted 2 weeks. He got homesick a little bit and just didn't like the hockey and was like, "Yeah, I'm out of here. I'm going home." Okay. I stuck it out and played in Florida for a year, and then came back.
You mentioned it was like, it's something you said to us was subpar hockey. Just the hockey wasn't good. Is that what you didn't enjoy?
The hockey, you know what? It was probably one of the best years hockey-wise for me personally. But the league wasn't that strong. I mean, guys like you would probably have about 72 goals in the first 6 games, kind of thing. It was pretty shady league, lots of fights. And
okay.
But so when I came home from there, I got into massage school, and I approached Tom Duffy and said, "Hey, listen, do you need a guy just to push pucks or help your D out if I can, and I want to learn from you?" And he was all aboard on that and snatched me up, and man, it was started with him.
Wow. Well, that's great. So you mentioned, I guess we'll jump in here. You mentioned you coached against Sidney Crosby. How special did you know he was? Like, when did you know that? And did you think all the way special, or just like, whoa, he's got a chance? Or, I mean,
oh man, I mean, even like you guys know the Sutherland family.
Yeah,
and they're cousins with Sid. So being over at their place a lot through minor hockey and stuff, you grew up and you saw Sid all the time, and he'd be up in the tennis courts and zipping around and calling for the ball. And he's 3 years old, and we're all 12, 13, zipping the ball around. He's in there screaming, "Give me the ball!" But and then you follow him obviously through, and you hear, "Oh my God, this kid in Adam is scoring 192 goals. Like, what's going on here?" But I'm pretty sure he skipped Pee Wee altogether and jumped right into Bantam. I don't know if the facts are totally clear on that, but he was an underager playing Bantam AAA, and yeah, you knew this kid had tons of potential, and it was something special. I mean, the kid had bigger, his quads were bigger than a grown man like mine at that age. It was nuts.
Yeah, he's famous for his quads. He can't even buy a pair of jeans, that kid.
Right?
Right? Is there anything in particular that blew your mind? Like, do you remember any particular instances?
Yeah, it was a funny story. It was the first time I'd been back to Truro since playing there. I was coaching. It was the provincials were held in Truro, and he was on Cole Harbour, and we met them in the final. And he had 4 points. I think he had 2 goals and 2 assists. Like, he was just on a whole nother level, dominant.
All right. How did you prepare for him as a coach? Were you?
You can't.
Okay. So what?
No, we
had players. Yeah.
We had a couple of guys on our team that were physically able to handle him, so we played them a lot. James Reinhold was one kid that that we put on him, and he was a big, strong kid from the north end of Halifax. And I mean, he'd come back to the bench and look at me. He's like, "Coach, I don't know. I can't. He's too strong." I was like, "James, you're like the strongest kid in the league." Yeah, it was really tough to coach him, and minimize his opportunities as much as possible, right? Like, keep him to the outside as best you can. Don't let him drive the net. If you're going to get in physical contact with him, make sure that you're between him and the net as best you can.
Yeah. Do you recall how the players took him? Like, how they were kind of thinking about it beforehand? Like, what am I supposed to do? Or just like, they get pumped up and think, I'm going to get this. Like, how did players take him? Okay.
Our guys loved playing against him because he was competitive. Mm-hmm. Right. And we had a good group of kids that were very competitive themselves. So it was like, oh, okay, like, perfect. We've got two competitive teams that are playing against each other, that we're going to stop this guy. We're not going to let him get any points. In previous, during the regular season, we held him to, I think, 3 points. And then he comes out and gets 4 in one game against us. But he was a gamer. Like, the final games meant a lot to him, and he just rose to the occasion. Mm-hmm. Like he does still.
Yeah.
It's awesome that you bring that up, because, like, sometimes you'll play a team and their best player will be hurt or whatever, and some people are happy about it. But I always liked playing teams. You want to know that you competed with them at their strongest and you were able to persevere. You want to be able to have that challenge in that battle. It's almost more motivating and rewarding when you've beat someone that has their full squad and has put everything into it. Those are the 100%. Kinds of battles that mean the most to you.
100%. Yeah, totally agree with that. And, you get kids coming off the ice and they're just like gassed and, "Coach, I don't know." I was like, "Hey, well, we need 3 more shifts from you. Like, we can stop them here." We were close. We stayed pretty close until the third period. And then I think there was about 7 minutes left, and that's when he scored his 2 goals. With 7 minutes left, I think it was 3-2 at the time, and we were just putting a lot of pressure on them. And all of a sudden, you could see it across the ice when he was at the gate, and he looked back up into the coach, and he looked out in the ice, and I was like, "Oh boy." Sure enough, he jumped out in the ice and he screamed for the puck. As soon as his foot touched the ice, their D-man fired it up to him, and he comes in and just wires one top shelf. It was just like, my memory's not great, but you remember Sidney Crosby sniping top shelf on you, and the look as he's coming on the ice, just like, "Oh, I'm not going to be stopped."
All right.
I remember watching him for the first time with Denise. We were at Halifax watching him when he was playing with Rimouski against the Mooseheads, and I remember people behind me like talking, "Oh, he's not so special. He hasn't really done anything tonight. He hasn't really stood out." And I'm thinking, exactly. He's a young kid in the queue who hasn't stood out because he never makes a mistake. He's always doing the right thing. So even if he doesn't necessarily do something mind-blowing, you'll never notice him be in the wrong spot or make a bad choice.
It's very, very,
how consistent he is.
Very rare that you see him turn over a puck or not be in the proper position to get back or recover from, if he does lose a puck. He's always in a position where he takes one stride, he's back into it. He'll lose the puck and he's one stride away because he positions himself always so properly. It's fun to watch him.
I wonder about being around at that time, in that era, just the general vibe, without calling anybody out or anything. Did parents resent him, or did everybody like it at all, or how did they take him?
I'm pretty sure it was I would say the jealousy factor of things. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of parents at that time were just like, "Oh yeah, what's the hype on this kid?" And they tell their kids to go out and goon him up, and you have to nip that in the bud as far as a coach with parents and be like, why would you want him injured? This kid's doing the right things. If he was a dirty player, absolutely, yeah, take his head off. But he was never dirty. He would stick up for himself. So what's wrong with that? So I think there was a little bit, and I've heard stories that poor Troy was kicked out of a few rinks during Sid's career in Nova Scotia. So
yeah, I guess you have to. Well, Well, that's great, man. So what about, now you say Sid beat you, but your team had lots of success. Otherwise you won some provincial titles and stuff, you told us, etc. Give us some success stories here.
Well, just with Tom Duffy, we won, I think, 2 provincial titles, and then Peter Mumbercat came in to take over for Tom, and we won another provincial title with him. And so we went to the Atlantics, I think 3 times. Didn't win at the Atlantics, but showed very well. But the provincial titles, and then when I moved out here to Calgary in 2004, I coached a midget 4 team, which is equivalent to, I guess back in our day, midget D.
All right. Not so high level. Let's say that for listeners. Yeah.
Not the greatest of hockey, but it was fun. Good bunch of kids. Lots of parents, obviously, in the oil and gas industry, and that came into play 7 years ago when I started downtown. We'll get into that, but
sure.
From that midget team, I went and coached Bantam 1 team in another community called Glen Lake. We won all the tournaments we went into. I think there was like 4 or 5, and then we lost in the city final by a goal. And then the next year I was recruited so what they do in Calgary is they split the city into 4 quadrants. You have your northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. I was coaching in the southwest for the Calgary Royals. Midget 15, so U16 AAA team, and we had a great dressing room, great bunch of kids and I had a good coaching staff as well with me. We just grinded it out all season long, and we made it to the final of what was called the Sutter Cup. So the Southern Alberta, so it's from Red Deer down to Calgary, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, the lower part of Alberta. And then you had the Northern Division, but we won the Southern Division, the Sutter Cup, which was a pretty great accolade to get first year coaching in quadrant hockey, because it's the what coaches dream to coach in quadrant hockey. And I swing in my first year and win a championship, and I don't think there'd been a championship won in the Royals organization in 10 years. Mm-hmm. And to this date, they still haven't won a AAA championship since we won that one. So kind of just pat myself on the back on that one.
By all means.
Yeah, like I said, I had a great couple of great assistant coaches, one guy from Newfoundland, 2 other guys from Alberta here, and they were just, the hockey knowledge was very strong in our team, and we just, the boys loved us and just would literally jump through walls for us.
That's what you need, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always find it's about the team and how they get on and how they want to play for each other more than who you've got, right? Yeah. So, oh man.
100%.
Then it says, I guess you went on and became a trainer in Penticton. Is that right? Trainer. Yeah. And you had more success there. So what's the story about that?
That was awesome. So I've been massaging out here in Calgary it was 2009 that I went to Penticton V's in BCHL. 2009 I went out there, and when I interviewed for the job, the coach is actually from Calgary, Fred Harbinson, and he came out to Calgary to interview me, and I met him at a Tim Hortons, and he said, so what's your plan? I was like, I got a 3-year plan. This was a passion move. The pay was very minimal. Like it was a battle for 3 years. But I said, I want to win a national championship. And he literally sat back in his chair and just kind of, yeah, okay. I was like, well, I'm coming for 3 years. That's my plan. 3 years. I'll give you 3 years. And then, if you don't like me after the first year, you can get rid of me. But my first year there, the captain, Denver Manderson, was on a line with Bull Bennett, kid from California, was the highest drafted in the first round, California kid. Yep. He played for Pittsburgh. He got drafted by Pittsburgh. Great kid, so funny, and typical California, just surfer, easygoing, laid back. That year we made it to the division final and lost to Vernon, who was a powerhouse back then. And and then the second year was kind of I'd say more so a transition year. We had some good hockey players, but they just didn't mesh the way that I think coach wanted them to. And, there was a couple couple of guys that came in and out of the dressing room that were just, I think, just bad seeds. And then my third year, we won the national championship in Humboldt. But that season, we started off losing our captain on a 25-game suspension for knocking a guy out. It's pretty vicious. But we lost him for 25 games. But in the meantime, I think it started November 2nd. We went on a 42-game win streak and set a North American record for unbeaten streak. It was unbelievable. After 10 games, a 10-game win streak, we were like, we might have something a little bit special here. After 15, it's just like, and then once we got to 25, 30, it was just like, holy cow, like this team's special. We lost our final game of the regular season going into playoffs. And we had all of our top guys out of the lineup, and then we just swept the table in the BCHL, and then we played Brooks in the Doyle Cup, beat them, and then we went to Humboldt and lost our first 2 games, and then went 4-0 and to win. Wow. Yeah, we finished our last 4 games undefeated and beat Miramichi in the final, which was kind of, it was kind of bittersweet, the Maritime Hockey League making it to the final against us, and me being the trainer, and played in that league. It was kind of bittersweet, beating them. I mean, obviously it was nice to win for the V's, but yeah, it was a cool experience for sure.
To put that into perspective for people, okay, we're talking 42-game win streak, and for fun, I actually tried to Google, because I remember when we played Junior A, the Charlottetown Abbeys had a long winning streak, and I remember we broke it on home ice. We beat them 5-1.
Was it Summerside?
Maybe it was Summerside. I thought it was Charlottetown.
It might have been I can't, but I do remember.
And I feel like people were talking about that streak, and it was like, I don't know. I don't remember what it was like. Was it only like 27 games or something? I say only because when I was looking up to try and figure out what that streak was, what came up was an article called "The Greatest Season in Junior A History," and it was all about that 42-game win streak.
Oh, geez, man!
There will never be another season like that, and it's just amazing, especially where it's not like you said you had a 3-year plan. Your first year went okay, but then your second year didn't even go that well, really. When you put it into a team, like, you think there was a progression. You won the first round, then you won the second round, then you went on a 42-game win streak. No, you did really well your first year, and then you sort of backtracked for a year. Yeah. And then you had a rough start at the start of your third year. And then you just sort of turned it all around. And the greatest season in Junior A history in Canada. Just so folks understand how huge that is.
It was definitely a pretty special experience, and just being in the dressing room and watching these kids interact with each other, and the camaraderie. Like there was not too many kids on that team that were, not in the mix, and if they weren't in the mix, they got traded and we brought in. It was almost like, this guy's 10 times better, and his character is 10 times better. Like, this is unbelievable. Like, some of these guys are playing in the NHL right now, and it's exciting when they come to Calgary because I get to see them again. It's been a great experience, and yeah, that team was definitely special.
Imagine. Carts, I just, excuse me for this. So I remember going back to your meeting, and you were in Tim Hortons with that guy, and you were bringing your thing. You said the 3-year plan. Now, you weren't applying to be the head coach. What was your idea of winning a championship as a trainer? What were you hoping to influence, the culture or something? Like, what were you going to bring? Yeah.
So what I was bringing to the table was, it was a trainer and equipment manager position. So I had to do the equipment and skates and all that kind of stuff. And as far as the training side of things, I brought in, 10 at that time, I think it was about 8 years of massage therapy experience, working with athletes, working with whatever. And I said that, of anything, the guys that do get injured will have I know the body very well. 2, there's not too many injuries that in my career that I didn't have that these kids were going to get.
Yeah.
So it was, it was a really good fit. And plus I said to Fred, I was like, I'm not only coming to be the trainer and equipment manager, I'm going to be watching you. And if you're okay with it, learning from you and, how you are a GM of a junior A hockey team, how you are a head coach and how do you treat the players and, how he went about it to learn from him because he had a pretty good track record because I looked him up and I was like, oh, okay, so this guy seems to know what he's doing. So he's won some championships himself. So it was a kind of a nice double-edged sword that I got to, help these kids, mentally battle through injuries because I'd gone through it. I knew what it was all about and, you will get better. It might take a while, but we'll get you better as fast as we can. And then the whole coaching side, just watching how the assistant coaches handled things. And me and the D coach, he would come over to my place after games and we'd cut video for the D. So, we both learned and I learned a ton too. So it was really cool.
Man, anyway, it's a wonderful story. How about this? You went on to scouting now, Spruce Grove in the AJHL. What's all that about?
Yeah, so 3 years ago I started with Spruce Grove. My brother-in-law does skills work for the Saints, so he kind of got me in the door there, and I met with the GM, and I guess he liked what I had to offer, and he really picked my brain for a couple of hours on, the whole Penticton and how Fred did things and, why is he so successful and what do I got to do and what does this organization have to do to become that kind of, echelon in the AJ? Because Brooks has been, since we beat Brooks in 2011, they've won the national championship once and been to the RBC, I think 3 times. Like they've ran the tables pretty good here in Alberta. Like he recruits exactly like Fred did. And I remember standing at the glass before they took the bus back to Brooks, the head coach, Ryan Papiano, he came up and stood next to me. He goes, hey, thanks for everything. Thanks for getting all that equipment for our guys and doing the laundry and stuff. And he's like, and he goes, man, if it's one thing I learned is how to win a national championship. He's like, you guys are going to win it. He's like, what you guys have brought, I've learned so much. And yeah, next year he goes and wins the national championship.
I guess he did learn.
Oh yeah.
How about this one? What have you learned? Do you have any coaching philosophy or core principles now? Like, how would you put coaching? Assuming all these various roles, what does it take to win, etc.?
Man, it's culture. Like, like you can have stud hockey players, but if they don't buy in, man, you're gonna struggle. It's culture. I've learned is one of the biggest things that creates winning teams. Learning from when I played with you guys with the Bearcats, culture, and then just going through the ranks and coaching and seeing how when championship teams win, why do they win? They got guys that are in the dressing room that are gonna go battle with each other, shoulder to shoulder, and just come to the rink and it's like a job. This is what I'm here to do. I'm here to work. And when I was coaching, it was always, hey, let's bring everything to the table. Let's practice hard, and if you practice hard here, it's gonna come out in games. It's gonna be easy in games. So it was, you have the kids that buy in. It's very easy. You literally almost don't have to coach.
Wow. Hey man, I just had a guy on my other podcast, and he has a successful marketing firm, and I asked him about his culture, corporate culture, and what he hopes to create. And he said that he doesn't hire people that he doesn't think he could enjoy hanging out with, that he couldn't have, and that everybody would get along. He said even if he has a guy who's just got really good at his job, he goes, I'd rather have this guy that I like to be with. So even in the world, this all translates. And that's why I'm so interested in sports and what people are doing in their lives in sports, because it all translates to real life, right? My whole thing I constantly push is like hockey is not just about trying to get to the pros. It's about, it gives you life skills and how can people live after hockey and what does it give to them? Yeah.
It's funny you say that. The culture of around a team, the Dartmouth Major Midget program has been pretty successful for a long time. And you talk about guys that will compete and go to war. And I find it funny one of the stories Steve Kroll tells of we went to the Nationals my first year with the Subways, and I remember we had a practice kind of late in the year. We were preparing for like Atlantics or something, and so we had a practice, and there were other coaches from other teams watching us, and they were asking Steve, how does your team win? They hate each other. Like, they don't seem to get along at all. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, look what they're doing to each other out there. And he goes, no, that's just the way they practice. Like, they challenge each other. They make each other battle ready. Like, and that's 100%. Just the way they practice. They don't hate each other at all. And it was like such a shock to that coach. And that always stuck with me.
Well,
yeah, it's totally right. Like, our practices were probably more competitive than, this is when I was coaching that U16 team. Our practices were more competitive than our games, because our guys literally beat the tar out of each other every practice. So when they get out to games, it was just natural, and I don't know this guy, so I'm going to go twice as hard on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you mentioned going shoulder to shoulder and the culture and all that. And we had it on the Bearcats a couple of years I was there. I want to go talk about the junior days now. This is a little bit of reminiscing. So this would be after your couple of years at Boston we had there. And then so last couple of years, 2 years of junior, they recommended and said, go play. Well, how did you get to the Bearcats? How did those 2 years become in Truro, this expansion team? Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, I do remember. So we're settle in, boys. This is a good one. No, just kidding. Okay, so getting near the end of the school year in Boston, and my dad called me up one night and said, Geoff, I know that you said when you were a kid that you would never, ever, ever live in Truro, Nova Scotia. Side note, both my mom and dad's families are in Truro, so I have tons of relatives there still, Brookfield as well. So I said to him, I was like, well, okay, well, who's the coach? And he goes, well, that's probably the other second kicker. It's Steve Kroll. And I was like, seriously, Steve Kroll? And he goes, now, Geoff, that was a long time ago. Backstory, U16 Team Nova Scotia. I got cut first round. I was devastated. I thought at least make it to like the top, 40, top 60. No, I got cut first round of cuts. I was cut. So I was a bitter kid, and I went into that Bantam season on a mission. But yeah, I did not like Steve Kroll because of that. And I was like, oh man, he's like, Geoff, just give him a call, see if you can get a walk-on tryout and just go from there. So I came home after school, and Jim Bottomley actually called the house pretty much every day for like 3 weeks. Finally, I talked to him. I was like, Jimbo, I've already committed to a walk-on tryout with Truro. If something doesn't happen there, then I'll definitely come play for you. In the back of my head going, I never want to play for that crazy SOB, man. Not a chance. Whoa. Growing up, you see how crazy his teams were. Like, you're terrified. I was like, this guy screams and hollers and picks kids up and beats the tar and then practice. I don't want to be a part of that. So, I talked to Steve, and Steve was like, yeah, for sure. Come for a walk on. He's like, I can't promise anything, but we'll see how it goes. And yeah, I got to camp, and I remember it so well. It was a beautiful day. We're headed to the Brookfield rink. I pull up, and I'm sitting in the car, and I'm nervous already because I'm like, okay, who's going to show up here? Like, I don't even know who's going to play on this team. And who pulls up beside me is Dougie Clark. I'm like, no way. This is awesome. I was like, Dougie, what's going on? And I was still sitting there, and here comes Matty B. Here comes Rob Dixon. I'm going, are you kidding me? I hate these guys. Like, I played against them all my life. I hate them. You know how it is when you're a kid. When you play against good players, you're like, well, I don't like you, so I'm going to try and do my best to not let you succeed. Robbie Dixon, Andy Brown, like all these guys rolling in. I'm going, I'm way out of my league here. This is like, what am I doing here? This is crazy. And get on the ice, and I think I obviously must have had a decent enough camp for them to like me. And
well, yeah, and you fit right into the culture and the whole thing, man. I mean, imagine not having carts.
I remember kind of the same feeling when I showed up because I was late getting there. We talked about that in the episode with Randy. I was in Ontario for a month or so, and then I came home late. The team was already picked. We talked about numbers. I was number 10 every second year of youth hockey because I liked it, and I couldn't get it every first year because you always had it. Anyway, I showed up, and 10 was already taken by Jeff Towers. So I was just handed number 11, same thing, like the cast-off number. And I remember showing up to the room, and everything's all settled. The team's picked, and I'm looking like, what's going on? There's some weeks guys. There's some max guys. It's like, these are the enemy.
It was wild. It was wild.
It was nuts. But it didn't take long, obviously, to correct that. But first instinct when you come in, it's like, oh, what are you doing here? And you get your back up a little bit.
I was like, geez,
keep going.
I was just gonna say, like, oh man, I'm competing against Rob Dixon. Like, the guy was always a stud and always like the dirtiest son of a bitch. So excuse my language, like so dirty, right? Like playing against him, like he'd stick you as just to look at you kind of thing. And I was like, man, gonna play with this guy. Like, oh, this is gonna be a rough one. Like,
so Dixon, that's 2 guests in a row that have called you out for your stick work. 2 guests in a row. Oh, there's a pattern here.
Well,
Dixon.
I'm not. Hey.
You called up for stick work.
I'm guilty of it too. Like I was just as equally as dirty as him because I'd stick him right back. I didn't care.
Hey, I love having these dudes behind me too. Right? This is great. Big dudes who are dirty and scary. Yeah. Good luck coming near me. Now we talked about all these enemies around, right? And then Framer mentioned last week on the show that training camp got us gelled pretty quick. He said like Willie kind of took the reins and kind of got everybody going. Do you remember anything about training camp and at all? Any stories at all? Maybe not. I don't know. Just putting it out there and how that came together at all.
I remember Willie coming into the room, and the team was pretty much picked, and he was staying with the Anthonys, right? I'm pretty sure the Anthonys, the big family in the big house there. Okay. With Hans and Murph and Frenchie. Yeah. And I remember him coming in saying, "Hey, sorry for the young guys, but you guys that are 19 or whatever, we're going to have a couple of pints over at the, I think it was it's one down by the train tracks, the mill.
Engine room? Oh, the mill.
Engine, yeah, that's the engine room. No, it's the engine room. And I remember a bunch of us going and just, we had a couple of beers and shot the breeze, and we came together so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Well, how about this? What was your experience like? You said you didn't want to live in Truro ever, but what was your experience living in Truro and playing in Truro? Who did you bill it with and live with? I mean, I should know these things, but I forget. I
know Mary Jean and Jamie Muir. So Jamie Muir was the MLA for Truro. Mary Jean, she worked at the library. By far one of the best families to be builded by. Obviously my parents knew Jamie and Mary Jean very well. Mm-hmm. So, I couldn't, quote unquote, get away with too much. So yeah, right. There's eyes everywhere in that town. Funny story. I was at the mall and I think I was just grabbing some tape, or I don't know what I was grabbing from the sports store. And I get home and the phone rings, and it's my grandmother. She goes, "Jeff, were you at the mall today?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, so-and-so saw you walking around with your Bearcats jacket on." I was like, "Oh, sweet. So anywhere I go, that's Emmeline's grandson, or that's Francis's grandson." I'm like, "Oh man, I'm not gonna be able to get away with anything here." I know. But it was great.
Okay. Well, how about this, Cart? So you got on the team as a walk-on. I didn't know you were that part of it. How did you see your role on the Bearcats? How did you define yourself?
Whatever I got to do to get on the ice, I'll do it. Literally. And that's kind of what Don's told me. He was like, you probably won't get too much power play time, if any. But he's like, you'll PK and you'll be just a solid guy back there that just, I think it's a joke now with the men's league I play in. Cartsy has the best first pass in the league, so that's I think I kind of ran with that in junior. I'm pretty sure I remember my pass being pretty on 99% of the time. So
all right,
get the puck out of the zone, use the windows.
Yeah, hey, that's what I was about. Get the ball in soccer. It's to get the ball to somebody good. Get the ball. I want to make a pass off to somebody who's take it, and then I'll get somewhere open. Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. Now, part of that, no doubt, was to look out for the boys, right? That was part of your role there, right? Policing a little bit. And you mentioned Smitty joining along, Russell Smith. This is a guy who bolstered that. We all got a few inches taller after he joined the team. And can you describe your relationship with Smitty in general? Anything to do with Russell Smith joining and what you remember about that?
Me and that guy were attached at the hip. As soon as he showed up, he sat next to me in the dressing room. And yeah, attached at the hip, man. Like, he taught me so much. There are times when everybody be off the ice or those early Friday morning practices with Donzi's skills work. Smitty and I would probably show up 95% of the time either still drunk or hungover. Donzi would just shake his head at us, and we'd put in the work for 45 minutes to an hour, man. And then after the practice, Smitty and I would stay on the ice, and he taught me, how to literally take a punch and just position myself so I didn't, get knocked out or take a really bad beating kind of thing. And a couple of tricks that he showed me, getting in tight with guys and, being able to hold on to them in a certain way. And I got a good story about that from Summerside.
Oh, okay.
On the ice. But yeah, it was that kind of role, Donzi would tap my shoulder and say, "Cartsy, 16, don't come back." All right, Donzi. I'll try, man.
I wonder, geez, how that goes down these days, but that certainly was the era in the late 90s, right? But
and those Friday morning practices,
yeah.
You brought them up.
Oh,
optional, 8 a.m. Friday morning after a night at the AC pub. I'll never forget those.
They were never optional for me and Smitty.
There was probably the same 8 people there every time. The same 8 would come religiously, and then a few guys would trickle in. It would be different. It was awesome. I actually have a Smitty story, and I wonder if you guys remember. It was one of the only times where I missed the game. I missed 3 games in a row with back spasms. And I remember we played a game at home. I can't remember who we were playing against, but I was sitting in the reserve section with the reserve seating where the healthy scratches sat. It wasn't a healthy scratch, I guess, but and I remember we won in overtime. And Smitty scored the overtime winner. And I remember everyone was kind of like, a Smitty of all people. And then he turned to the reserve section and just like kind of made everybody get up and and he was just standing there like it was the greatest thing that ever happened to him. And everyone was just around him. And it was just the whole team, you felt so happy for him of all people to get that goal. And his whole character was just summed up in that moment for me. And I don't know if you guys remember that happening, but it was hilarious. He got the place rocking.
I feel like I pictured the way he looked when he's doing it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, you can totally see his face and everything. Yeah. I
want to, for listeners, I think I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I believe Smitty was obviously a big time player growing up all the time. Russell Smith, and then he was into the Quebec League in Hull, wasn't he? At the time when he came to us, and then I think what I understand is that he wasn't very happy with the role they gave him. He thought he was could bring a lot more than what they wanted to give him. So then he just kind of said, screw this, I'm going to play tier 2. So he came down and played junior A with us. And it was like, we're getting Russell Smith on our team now. Like, we already had this good team and now we're getting this. Like, that's crazy. So we get this skilled guy and he said, look, you come here and you get to play hockey. And he's still at the same time going to scare other people. Like, nobody's going to mess with us because that's a look at them. Right. But so he could be more of a, just play hockey and have fun. And is that how it went down?
I think he might have gone even to Panthers training camp or something also.
Okay.
And being involved at the junior B team, for years after the fact, we had a lot of guys like Lee Davidson is one I really remember, where we had several people in that junior B league come home, and they would rather play junior B in their hometowns than play in the queue and just be a fighter, because I remember them being so relieved. I just want to get back to playing hockey again. I just want to have fun playing again, instead of having to always have the pressure of not getting a lot of ice time and then having to go out and fight a guy. And, that stuff, it's a hot debate right now, the fighting in hockey. And I know it was important for us at the time, and it really was part of the game and still is in a way. And those guys embraced that role, and you obviously did too. But there is that other side of it where guys are just, happy to also get a chance to show off some of their skills and their talents and be part of the hockey side of things too. And to have that blend and to see how happy some of you guys are when you come home and some of these junior guys that are, the pressures of the queue are away from them, and they can just smile and relax and be themselves a little bit. It's fun to watch that transition with some players.
Yeah, 100%. Like I remember Smitty. I was over at his place one night, and I was just like, so why here? Why did you come back? And like, why didn't you pursue it? He looked and he goes, honestly, Geoff, he's like, I couldn't handle it anymore. All they wanted me to do was fight. And that's not something that he's like, I'm done. I don't want to fight anymore. He's like, and then he gets his, his nice little smirk and looks over at me and he goes, that's what you're going to do. I was like, man. I was like, I don't have to fight if you're here. Nobody's going to have to fight, because you just step out in the ice and it's like, oh, geez, they got Russell Smith. We won't do anything to these guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know how much I can relate to, getting tapped and having to fight all the time, but I've been involved in a few. And you mentioned a bit of a story there, Carts, about Summerside. I'll let you take it. Go ahead.
Oh man, this is actually one of my most favorite memories of the Bearcats. We went over to Summerside. I think I'm pretty sure it was early on in the season, if not first 5 games maybe. You guys might be able to remember this a little bit.
I don't remember the season, no.
No, I don't remember what part of the game it was at, but I usually played with you guys. Like, I was usually out in the ice, and I think this was before Smitty came, so it had to have been early. And you, Dougie, and Josh, you guys were all out in the ice, and it was me and Reader. I'm pretty sure it was Reader or Keel, one or the other. And they send out their monsters, and they have like 3 or 4 guys that are like 6'5", like way bigger than me, tall and skinny, but still they're pretty big. And a line brawl happened. I had a hold of my guy. I reached around the back of him, and I was holding the back of his jersey, and I kind of can opened him, and I was peppering him up against the glass. I finally get my bearings. I have him so tied up that he can't do anything. I look over to my right, and there's Maddie just absolutely hammering on this big guy. Like, and I looked over and I'm like, Maddie, you okay? And you looked over and you said to me, like, Cartsy, I'm good. I got this guy. Just hammered him. I looked down the ice. Stank, you're beating a tar out of some big guy. Like, you have him down the ice and you're throwing uppercuts, and then Dougie's, his hair's flying everywhere and he's hammering somebody. And the only guy I don't remember is Reader. I don't remember where he was, and I don't think the goaltenders got into it, but
I don't think we had goalie fight.
I remember getting into the dressing room and looking at you guys going, holy shit, boys, I didn't realize you guys had that in you. That was unreal. And I was terrified to come back to the bench and Steve be like, why didn't you protect our guys? Like, what the heck happened out there? Like, that's what was running through my head. And I'm like, I don't have to worry about these guys. These guys are killers.
Dave's a killer. Dave's a mess.
Listen, here's a way to tell how who was on the ice with us. Just check the stats, because everybody got suspended for 3 games except for Matty Boulton.
That's one of my. I can't say it's a favorite part of it. It's a funny punchline for sure, though. You guys got 3 games or 2 games, I think. Everybody?
I don't even remember.
Because we didn't go to the bench. They picked out him as the first fight, so we were all supposed to go to the bench.
Yeah.
But since we didn't go to the bench.
So that's probably why, because I was the closest to Matty, and I think I was trying to get that guy off of Matty, and another guy came in, and I grabbed him and started filling him in, and Matty I was not worried.
Yeah. They
like
call
if it had been the reverse, I probably would have pushed that guy away and grabbed that guy, but I was like, I really don't have to do anything right now. Matty is beating the wheels off this guy.
Yeah,
and maybe I'm misremembering, but here you think the punchline is that we got suspended. That's really funny. The worst of it all is it becomes even more funny when you realize I think you only had one elbow pad left on for your upper gear when you were done the fight, and then going off to the bench, you're like, well, I might as well lose that. You throw your elbow pad into the crowd, was it, or something?
I threw it down, just gave a bit of everybody was booing. So I'll give you a bit of it. So I even know how the brawl started, Carts. I went down and I went down a guy on the hash marks. He was getting a pass from the D, and then I was going down to get my check. And then as I hit him kind of shoulder to shoulder, he fell a little bit like awkwardly kind of forward into the board, so it looked bad, and the referee shoots his arm up right away, and I'm like, you what? And all of a sudden they're coming in like, let's kill this guy because it's a bad hit, and I'm like, oh crap. It's like, and then it's just on, and everybody's coming in right away. It's that kind of thing. So then it was like, like I said, it was grab this guy, you're coming in right away, like, oh, we got to get in there, and everybody is grabbing their guy and doing everything. And so that's how it went down, I guess, originally. And then why everybody else got a second man in or something. That's when you get the suspension. And I got the original fight, so I don't get the extra game. And how I did so well, this big guy, was that early on in the fight, as I was grabbing on, I was trying to lift. I thought maybe if I just lift his leg and flip him over, I'll get him on the ground and hold him there, because I don't want to. I'm scared because everybody's occupied, and these linesmen, nobody's going to be able to protect me if this guy starts killing me, right? So I was like, I better hold on to him. And I couldn't get him, and I couldn't get her, and I just got frustrated. So I just decided, screw this. I didn't have my gloves on. I dropped my right glove and just came up with an uppercut, and it released us. And then I started throwing them. And then what happened is he pulled on me, and all my upper gear came off and had just the undershirt on. And after that,
you did the old Graham McIsaac.
Yeah. Is that it? Is that?
Just his gear just like suddenly pops off. You got nothing to grab onto.
Right, and that's what it was. So I was there, and he had nothing, and I held onto his arm and just had him. And then it was up against the glass and all over, and people were just screaming. The crowd was hanging over, screaming and everything. And I guess this is why they have, for our listeners, this is why they have the tie down rules. If you're not tied down, you get a penalty, right? Because it's bad. So that's how that went, and that's why afterward, because I was just going off, everybody was screaming, booing, and then that's why I decided to just give them a little bit of a, I can hear it, and then skating off, just big time in it, like first time,
Yeah.
Come on.
Big time in it.
Had to try.
In Summerside.
It was quite a thrill in Summerside.
And
wasn't Gerard Gallant the coach of Summerside at the time? Right, this is the guy who used to play with Steve Eiserman, my hero. Right, he used to play on a line with him. Right, and I wonder what he thought of me after that. Disgrace. Right. But anyway,
I know what I thought of you.
Yeah. And then I felt bad. So you guys are up in the stands the next couple of games, and I'm playing, and you guys all have to sit out. And they're just like, oh, sorry.
We enjoyed our popcorn.
Yeah. Look at us, though. We've got a story out of it 20 years later, right? So
weren't you the only guy that played all 62 games or whatever that year? I feel like you were the only guy that played all the games.
Maybe it might have been something like that. Yeah, I don't remember ever missing a game. So yeah, and I don't know if anybody else did that as well. Well, Carts, thanks for that reminisce, buddy. That's my glory story. I sometimes say it's the most fun I ever had playing hockey, jokingly, but I mean, it was some kind of thrill, and I couldn't imagine doing that for real though. There's been a few times just being in that, and it's scary, right? So, did you ever feel like that? Like it's scared sometimes when you get in. Once you're in it, and you're just like, holy, I don't want to get hurt. Like, is it like that?
This isn't going to end well for me.
Is that you always thought that this is not going to end well for me?
Yeah. It was one of those things, and it was especially strong at home. I listening to that podcast. It was funny, or that interview with Framer there, how and Cartsy was in the bathroom throwing up, and he did that before every game. It was just the home games. Let's make that clear.
Okay.
But it was nerves. Like, I was nervous, and depending on who we played, okay, so you think about, okay, so they have this guy, and this guy that could come after one of our guys that I'm going to have to step in and maybe fight, which 9 times out of 10, I never wanted to do anyway. And talking to Smitty, Donzie used to chirp with Smitty and be like, yeah, Cartsy's never mad when he gets into a fight. He's never mad. Maybe if he gets mad, he'll fight better.
Oh, man. Well, geez, go ahead, Josh.
This is kind of a question for you now that I think about it. There was a guy named Jesse Anchikovsky or something like that. Him and his brother played for us for Truro my last year. And he used to throw up before every game too. And I remember that year we also had a guy who brushed his teeth between every period. So I'm thinking now, what is the weirdest thing you guys have ever seen people do? I know some people take their skates off and then put them back on between every period. I didn't touch anything. I didn't want to mess with anything. I just sat there. What's the weirdest thing of all the hockey you've been around, Carts, where little superstitions people have had?
By the way, I wonder that guy brushing his teeth. It was Brad Marchand, who's going to know he's going to be licking people, so he thought I better do it.
Right?
I'm sorry, Carts. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I'm pretty. I don't know. It's probably pretty common, but I had a kid that in Penticton would literally sprint off the ice after the end of a period and shower between periods.
Wow.
Did you ever ask him about it?
I don't get it. I've never seen it.
Like, did he say, here's one?
What are you doing? He said, I just got to make sure I just I got to wash that period away. Like, good or bad, he'd wash that period away. I don't know, superstition, but he was the fastest dresser I've ever seen. Like, he could have dressed in like 3 minutes. Like, no joke. It was nuts. Yeah. Did you have a zipper on your gear? Like, what's going on here? Is it a one piece?
I know how do you understand that, getting dressed so quick? Like, I sometimes I
don't get it.
Yeah. The upper gear, I didn't even do that because I just felt like, it's so much to put it on.
Well, you didn't do anything quick. And growing up with you, here's the problem. I was always the first one undressed. I used to get undressed sometimes before the coach would come in and do his post-game talk. And I don't know why I was in such a hurry, because you were always the last one. So I had to wait for you anyway. You were always the very last one out of the room. So I don't know why I was so fast.
Tough after showers. It's hard to get dressed right away. You have to like cool down and stuff, man. You can't just...
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I'm right with you, Maddie. Right with you.
All right. So we talked about your relationship with Smitty. Who else were you tight with? It wasn't just like 20 guys walking around Truro all the time, right? And, it was true that people rolled with certain guys. It wasn't like we all got along really well, but yet there were people were tighter than others. Anybody else you were rolled with?
Yeah. Well, Tucker lived around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So Dino, I drive Dino to school every day with me and to the rink and stuff like that. And Robbie Sutherland, I lived with him. He came in and lived with the Muirs that year. So,
all right,
we had a relationship previous to the Bearcats, just knowing the family so well, and spent a lot of. I mean, he was 16, but I did spend a lot of time at home or over at Don's playing Risk or that kind of thing, and with Tucker and Donzie would always chirp, hey, run up to Tucker's room and check under his bed. So we'd run up there and there'd be bags of chips and pop and stuff like that, hoarded away. How Tucker was.
Boys are getting called out on this show, I tell you. This is scandalous. Oh, yeah. All right.
I loved it.
How about now? Obviously, there's obviously people get special relationship with the people forward lines and D's and all that. And you and Brownie, and you had something going on with your the playoffs there. Something happening. What happened? You and Brownie in the playoffs? Andy Brown.
Yeah, Andy Brown. If you F around, you lay around, and he give you the sign. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
If you're dangerous, anytime.
That's amazing.
If you mess around,
anytime you do
lay
that,
around.
I'd be like sitting down. Yeah. I'd sit in my stall and I'd grab the bottom of the seat because I never wanted to wrestle with him because he was a maniac. But yeah, Brownie and I, we painted our toenails in playoffs, and we changed it every series that year, and it was pretty funny. Like he'd come in and be like, "Hey, Cartsy, check out my toes," and they'd be like bright yellow and bright green, like all different colors on every different toe, and I was just like, "This guy's a beauty." Like, oh yeah, that's what we did for the playoffs. It was awesome, and you know what? It's funny because thinking back, it really did kind of calm my nerves a little bit in the playoffs. And, you know, Andy Brown was one of the guys that was the quiet hand that came in and Carts, you know, like, let's have some fun with this, right? Like, you know, he would always be that guy that would quietly just come up to you and be like, "Hey, you good?" "No, I'm terrified, man."
Wow, that's a great stuff right there. Do you recall anything else about our playoff runs at all that you want to mention? Obviously, we got the outline with the Framer last week. You know how it went down. We know the scores, the lines, and that stuff. But what else do you recall about any of that?
I just remember, you know, the excitement in the room before we go out on the ice, and how everybody was, you know, dialed in. You know, and you know, there was that real intense, quiet focus, and all of a sudden, Piercy, "What's the hold up? Open the door!" and would loosen the guys up, and we'd hit the ice, man, just buzzing. Those are the, you know, those little details, and I remember the crowd being insane, and that was so much fun to play in that small barn with those people just losing their minds, loving every second of it. And you know, as far as the details, I do remember after that final game, I was sitting next to Smitty in the room, and he looked at me and I looked at him, and we both literally said at the same time, "I don't remember periods 2 and 3 at all." Like, do
you mean Game 7 triple overtime?
Yeah.
Okay.
From the second period on, I don't remember until like close to that last shift that Justin Johnson scored, but he got rocked pretty hard. I think it was Mark Carr hit him in the corner, and if you remember Mark Carr, he was he was probably the toughest guy in the Maritime Junior League by far, but he was quiet about it. Like he didn't fight that much, but he was a very scary individual. I played Bantam hockey with him, and just the greatest guy on the planet, but he hit hard.
Played with him on the subways, and he was just like a superhero body. Like he was a thick, strong guy, looked like Superman or something. And then he was 16 years old, and he was just a tank, right? And then now as a junior guy, oh my God.
Yeah, he hit Smitty pretty hard, and I'm pretty sure he got a pretty serious concussion.
I didn't know that.
The rest of the game. He played the rest of the game, and I'm pretty sure it was in the corner with Desi Munden, and I think just the way he turned, he kind of just had his arm out, and he kind of clipped my jaw a little bit, and I rattled my head, and I literally don't remember until Justin Johnson scored. And then sitting in the dressing room, I remember sitting in the dressing room after the game, and we were soaked. Like everybody was just completely drenched, and it was so hot in the room. Like Framer said, I remember those like little details. Like, yeah, it was hot in that rink, and I have that like blank part in my brain that I don't remember that game, except first period and the game-winning goal.
Geez, I didn't know you guys were concussed. Like this is the kind of news that I get now having these conversations. Now I don't remember periods 2 or 3 myself either, but that's another story. It's nothing to do with concussion.
You don't remember last week?
Yeah, I mean it might be related to concussions, but it's in the later version of it. We mentioned these Christmas shirts that Growler handed out there. Do you remember what your Christmas shirt said at all?
I've racked my brain, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it was Barney.
Barney?
Like
the dinosaur?
Like the purple dinosaur.
Yeah. Can you know why he would say that?
Now thinking about it, there's 2 things that I would probably what I do remember. One would be, I think I would consider myself a pretty friendly guy at most of the time. Mm-hmm. Pretty good to you guys, like pretty good to teammates and stuff like that. Like I felt like I was pretty cordial with everybody and just happy-go-lucky kind of guy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The second part would be I was purple a lot. I had a lot of injuries. I had a lot of bruises. I remember my hip. I remember distinctly going into the office. I had gotten hurt the night before. I played the rest of the game. Went to the doctor, and I was probably purple from about, midway up my ribs, down across my hip, and down my leg to about my knee. It was purple because I hit my hip on the boards. Mm-hmm. I still have a pretty good divot in my hip from that hit.
Wow.
And I think I missed about 3 or 4 games, and then it was purple. And I remember showing Growler.
I remember you having a hip injury. That's amazing.
Oh, it was awful.
It's all coming back to me now.
Hey man, and I attribute a lot of my I guess coaching skills to watching a lot of hockey. I watched you guys play a lot. Unfortunately, I didn't have the Iron Man awards of any hockey team I played on, but I was hurt a fair amount with concussions and shoulders and hips and you name it, man. It was a year that my second year for sure, I remember being hurt a lot and watching a lot of hockey and, watching what you guys did on the ice. And, okay, when I get back in the lineup, I got to remember that because he turns that way more so than he turns the other way. He opens up this way more than that. I started to notice those details, and I tried to apply them into the game when I got back into the lineup, and then further on used it coaching.
Right.
So
I guess that's
those little details.
That's something guys say when they're in the press box is a lot different. You're looking down, you see the whole game as a whole, right? Instead of just being up in it. It's a whole different thing when you're right up in it. But then wow, that's something. So on a recent show, Carts, Josh and I shared a memory of our final frantic shift in Antigonish, the one that ended my junior career. And that would have been also the end of your junior career. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the same. What do you remember of that series, or even maybe of just that shift, or just anything about that kind of thing in the end of your junior career in Antigonish?
My end of my career actually happened in Truro the night before. I sat in the stands with Randy Frame in Antigonish for that final game. I was sent out with, I think, a minute or so to go to grab a hold of one of their top scorers, he was a tall player. I can't remember who it was. Number 4, I think it was 14. I don't remember. Anyway, he's a big, tall kid. He scored a lot of goals. He wasn't the guy that I was supposed to get because they pulled their top scorer off at the last second. And Growler tapped me on the shoulder and he's like, take the face off and drop your mitts and fight that guy. And he was like their second scorer or something like that. Big, tall kid. So
was his name McFarland?
It might have been McFarland. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that's something. So I won the draw and dropped my mitts and threw down with them. Wow. So then you guys were suspended. Is that how it went?
Yeah. So the last 10 minutes you get suspended. I didn't know this going into the fight. I might not have fought. I might have gone against what Growler wanted, and so I could get into the lineup the next night. I didn't realize, and then the next night when we went up to Antigonish, before we left, Growler's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you're suspended," and I was like, "All right." So that was my last game of junior. I got in a fight right on, and Framer, I think, got healthy scratched that night.
Is that right?
I think so.
That's a bit of a thud for the end of the thing. Now, it didn't have to be. It was only game 5, which is pretty sad just to admit that we got beat out in 5. So we could have easily won it and brought it back for you. But we blew it. Okay. Yeah. No,
but that's what I do remember. And I remember that barn being packed, and I think we played a pretty solid game, but we just couldn't connect. We just couldn't get the puck in the net for some reason that night. And I don't remember the score. Maybe we did score a bunch of goals.
Oh, well, we told the story recently. It was 3-0, and then we got 2 goals late in the last 7 minutes, and then we had the final shift, and Josh came on, and it was a whole. You can go see that episode, but Josh told the whole story about coming on, and he didn't know whether to get back on, and he was like stayed on, and then the draw, and then blah blah blah. Puck, he got a shot off, and it went to the corner, and it was all over, and it just kind of happened for him like that. But it was we almost tied it up late. It was going in, right, Josh?
Yeah.
It was going
in. Right,
I saw it
there,
too.
hit a skate. Oh,
Yeah.
I had the shots.
And we would have had OT. But, well, you talk about learning something. I mean, geez, I didn't know that part of it. So,
Yeah.
How about this? What was your own, to wrap up junior, what was your own personal glory story of junior? We told my fight story. But do you have any good, big glory memories of it?
You know what, guys, that first year and literally like 2 weeks into the season, being surrounded by guys that you quote unquote hated, hello kitty, hated for years, and having a pretty instant bond with every one of you guys. And holy cow, these guys are fantastic people. Like that was something that really sticks out in my mind that I do remember the most was, going to battle with guys that I had battled with for my whole life pretty much. Mm-hmm. That was something that was pretty special, I thought, in junior, for sure.
That's so interesting. Like, you could have said anything. You could have said a goal you had, or, this one particular shift, but no. I
don't know if I scored any.
But it was just how much fun we had together.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing about it. What a team.
Yeah.
I know I was trying to invite you to tell a Smitty OT or, whatever, but it was just, and then that's who you come with. All right. Well.
I got one. Good. Little sad start of it. Piercy's grandfather passed away. Mm-hmm. I was injured at the time. I think I had a dislocated or separated shoulder, and we needed to have a backup goaltender. And I dressed as the backup goaltender, and we were playing East Hants. And Growler told me, he's like, "You're not going out for warm up," because I was wearing goalie skates, which hindsight should have just worn my own skates. Couldn't skate. Like it was so hard to get from the entrance to our bench with the mask on. And Growler said, "Do not take your mask off." He's like, "I know 90% of that team across there. If they find out that you're the backup goaltender, they're gonna run Willie, and you're gonna have to go in." I'm like, oh my God. So I scraped my feet across the ice, got to the bench, sat down, had the mask on, and Daryl Cameron wasn't playing that night. I think Lowry was playing. And I remember looking across the ice, and Daryl Cameron was like doing this one. Like he kept coming over the bench and looking across the ice at me. And he turned his head, and I heard him tell Darren Sutherland, he's like, "That's Cartsy. That's Cartsy, and Cartsy's the backup goaltender." And I was just like, oh God. And I looked back to Growler. I was like, "They know it's me." And he goes, "What? What do you mean? How do they know it's you?" And I was like, "They know it's me." And he goes, "Well, just don't move. Don't take your mask off. Don't do anything."
Right.
So we come in, first period, second period go by. We're playing really well. Third period, they bump Willie, and Willie yard sales. Yard sales. Like his blocker goes flying. His helmet goes flying. He's laying on the ice. Sandra runs out. She's trucking across the ice, and I'm sitting there, and I'm pretty sure I shit my pants. Like, no joke. I'm terrified now. I'm like, I can hardly skate from the entrance to the bench. I'm terrified. And Willie's down, and I could see his head kind of turn up and look over to the bench at us, and a big shit-eating grin on his face. I'm like, son of a, oh my God, that son of a, he did that on purpose. Sandra comes back to the bench, runs down to me, and is laughing her ass off. She goes, "Carts, Willie did that on purpose." I was like, I hate him. I hate him. I was like, my heart's coming through my jersey right now.
I hate him, and I need a new pair of pants.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. That's one of the ones. Yeah, that was a funny night that night.
Good man. That is something. We're delivering here, I'll tell you, Cartsy.
That's a good one.
And imagine back in the 90s, again, it's that thing too, like the idea, if they find out this, they're going to run the guy. Like I don't think you hear much of that stuff these days. Like,
right?
Like, I don't know, man. So it's crazy. It's crazy late 90s. Well, Cards, I just love going back with the junior. Why don't we have a little bit more fun here now? You saw us go with the rapid fire with a framer. We're now calling the segment one-timers. So I want to tee you up for a few one-timers. Just get them away. Don't dust it off, right? Get away, quick answer. No stress here, all fun.
All right,
let's go for it. So who was your hockey hero growing up?
Ray Bork and Don Sweeney.
Nice. Who was your favorite team?
Boston Bruins.
Who's your favorite player in today's game?
Ooh, that's a good one. There's so many. Well, obviously the Nova Scotia boys, Sid and Nate. Love the way they play the game. And then, of course, I'm a big fan of the Penticton guys, Troy Stetcher, who's now in Detroit, Mike Riley, who's in Ottawa. And then there's a couple of guys from that Penticton team that are in the A and in the NHL, bouncing up and down kind of thing. But all those guys are, they're high up there for sure. That's
where your heart's at. All right. Who was the best player you've ever played with and against?
Best player I played with, I'm gonna go with Harold Druken. Played with him down at Nobles in Boston. And then he came back in the next year and went to Plymouth and played in the OHL, and then went to the NHL with Vancouver. He got drafted by it. He was probably one of the better guys that I played with for sure, that made it that far. But I mean, I could pump your guys' tires for sure, because I love playing and watching that first year Bearcats team. I love the guys on that team. The players on that team were just so fun to watch.
All right. Who was the toughest player you ever played against? Oh, with or against, excuse me.
Toughest player. Man. We played against Metzger. Remember that kid?
Metzger.
Yes.
Metzger.
Don't you remember that? We were on the way to Boston and we watched a video of him one-punching that guy from Charlottetown and center ice.
Okay. Well, that was when the Boulton were showing their fight videos?
Yeah. Sorry. He got one-punched by the Halifax guy in that video. Was it Walker that one-punched him anyway? It was a great video to watch. Metzger was famous.
Metzger was a maniac. Like, I remember him fighting. He was playing for the Olin Exports. And they were playing Antigonish and McIsaac. He knocked out McIsaac, and he was straddled over top, his knees kind of on McIsaac's shoulders, and he was just wailing on him. I don't know if you guys remember that. It made national news, and Mark Carr had to tackle his own teammate off of him to stop him. And we played him when he was in Charlottetown, and I remember him skating by the bench, and he looked at me and he goes, "I'm going to tear your head off." And Smitty elbowed me and he goes, "No, he won't. I got him." Jumps over the boards and fights him. All right, Smitty. Thanks, bud.
I'll tell you what, guys, good content rules. So this is great, but I will say that we are all getting kicked off the power play as in that one-timer spot, because we are not getting it off quick here.
We're moving the puck around too much. Sorry. Yeah,
this is beauty. Great stories though. I'll tell you. I guess this one you might. I don't know if you have a number. Do you know how many career fights? No.
4.
What would you say your record is? Yeah.
No, I don't know, probably 20 something fights. And I'd probably say I lost about 8 or 9 of them, and the rest were probably draws. I don't think I really beat anybody per se really good. I don't remember. This guy in Summerside was the only guy I think I handled pretty good. I'm pretty sure I broke his nose and knocked some teeth, but after that, I don't think I had a real good, like, he definitely won or he definitely lost fight.
Yep, that's a lot of them, isn't it? If you had a pro career, would it be in coaching, training, or scouting?
Ooh, that's a good one, Maddie. Jeez. Man, that's it. That is a good one. I like all 3 options. I love scouting, to be honest with you. Scouting.
Okay. How many career goals do you have?
Probably 12 from novice till now.
Do you or anyone you know put the milk in before the cereal?
Milk in before this? No,
You don't know anybody like that?
that's wild.
Okay. What is your opinion of such people and practices as that?
You're gonna overflow your bowl, man. You're not gonna get quality cereal in there.
Practical advice. What's the biggest game score you've ever been a part of on either end of it that you recall?
Coaching, spring hockey, we lost 29-2.
Wow. What's your biggest point total in a game or season, maybe you want to give us?
When I played in Florida, I had 6 points.
In a game? Wow. Sweet.
Yeah.
What's your highest total PIMs in a game or a season?
5, 10, 15, 20. I think it was like 35 minutes in penalties.
Wow, nice. That's a nice game. What's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened in a game for you?
I think it was my first game of hockey. I lined up on the wrong side.
Oh, yeah. What would a line of Carter get Dougie out of there, Carter at center with the Boultons on the wings bring?
Oh man, mayhem. You got, hey boys, dump the puck in deep, I'll get it. And you guys I'll get the puck to you and you chip away.
Mayhem. What's the best nickname you've ever had?
Cara Tata Sosa. Smitty called me Carter Tartar Sauce.
Okay. Do you have a least favorite nickname? One you didn't like very much?
I didn't like that Barney one, man.
Okay. When you tape your stick, do you cover the toe or do you leave the toe poking out?
I used to leave the toe out, but now I cover it.
All right. Toughest loss?
That's a no-brainer, boys.
Okay.
That's a no-brainer.
You never know. All right.
Can't get away from that triple overtime loss, buddy.
Career
Justin
breakaways.
Johnson, what did you do to all of us?
Justin Johnson killed us, man. Career breakaways. Do you recall how many of those you ever had, do you think?
Yeah, 2.
2. How did you do?
2 goals, buddy.
Attaboy. Do you remember your moves?
Yes, sir. Low blocker. Snapshot.
Attaboy. What rule change would you like to see in the NHL?
What rule change? Jeez. All right, that's a tough one, buddy.
You can pass them. You can leave them if you don't get anything. Okay.
I don't know.
What sport do you love after hockey?
Baseball.
What's your pregame meal? What was or what is today, I guess?
What was my pregame meal was Kraft dinner.
Attaboy.
So bad.
Okay. If a Big Mac has bacon on it, is it still a Big Mac?
Yeah, it's still a Big Mac. You're just adding bacon.
Okay. What skill set would you like to have incorporated, magically into your game if you could have it?
Foot speed.
Foot speed. Okay. There's a few more here. Favorite music genre?
Music genre?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Now, okay.
I love Dave Matthews. That kind of folky kind of music.
All right. Is that all the same as when you were young? Like, were you listening to that stuff back in the? Okay. What would you hope your teammates say of you?
Just a stand-up guy and easy to be around, and somebody that would have your back if you needed them.
All right. What would you hope your players say of you as a coach?
That I cared about them.
Okay.
I genuinely cared about the players.
Do you have a favorite movie quote?
Yes, from The Power of One. First with the head, then with the heart.
Okay. Hey, man, you aced it. You aced we don't really give out scores on it, but anyway, you aced it if we did. But excellent, Carts. There's your one-timers, everybody. Let's just go on now. Actually, I like to give the guys an opportunity to elaborate on any of them. I know we did on a few early. Do you want to elaborate on any of those ones there that you gave out?
The rapid fire, the one.
Yeah, the one-timers there. Yeah. Is there anything there that you want to qualify what you said about the bacon and the Big Macs?
No, you don't like that answer?
No, just kidding. Anyway, so you're pretty good with that then? All right.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things to wrap here. Hockey life, present day. What's your involvement in hockey these days?
Well, right now it's pretty quiet because there's no hockey going on. There hasn't been for about a month and a half with this COVID. So now that the NHL's on, we're just watching there. And there is a couple of kids that I'm watching down in the States right now that they are playing. So hopefully we can connect with them on the scouting side of things to get them up here to play in Canada. But right now it's very limited in the scouting world of what you can watch.
All right. So what do you do now? You're in oil and gas, is that right?
Yeah, oil and gas. I sell pipe. I rent pipe. It's pretty slow too. And then working from home has been an absolute blessing though.
Okay.
I have my wife and I, Jelaine, we had our daughter in May, so she's 8 months old now, and it's been a treat watching her grow up over the last 8 months and being home for every minute of it.
And this is Drew, you said her name is?
This is Drew, yeah.
Wow, well, congratulations. And you said it's a blessing. How is fatherhood in general? Anything you can give us?
Man, I love it. It's the best. Just see her smiling every day and growing, and just watching that whole thought process going. You can watch her think, and she looks at me and looks at her mom and just biggest smile. It's pretty trippy, man.
That's different. Okay,
that's
very
really
good.
Hairy.
You have two dogs, Eddie and Dennis, and a cat, Annie. You mentioned, right? We're big pet people here. You saw Eva come in and make a cameo here.
Nice.
And, dogs. One day when we have more space and live in apartments in Korea, it's not the place for a dog, but I'll be down with that. How's all that? How are they all doing? You a big pet lover?
They're the best. Oh yeah, man, they're the best. I got one of them sleeping behind me, and the other's in with Jelaine. The cat's probably roaming around the basement somewhere. But yeah, they're awesome, and they love Drew, and the one little guy Dennis. He's just a maniac. He loves her. He just wants to give her kisses all the time.
It's the sweetest thing, isn't it? Pets getting on with kids. Holy crap! You got to get on video there. You'll have yourself a Twitter, or whatever Instagram or Instagram account. And Josh, you got the dogs there, right? Bonnie and Lily in there. So we're all pet people up in here. You said in a note to us, you said hockey's always been a strong part of your life. So what has hockey been to you? What is it to you? Give it to us.
It's given so much, guys. I mean, obviously you build those relationships, back in the day that continue on, carry on. And I mean, moving out here and then coaching out here, it has really helped with my oil and gas job, because a lot of the dads are in oil and gas and have directed me in the right directions for jobs and stuff like that. So it's the networking and it's hockey guys are a breed of guys that, team oriented type characters that, like you were saying earlier, the business, having a business with good character people. And I'd rather work with a guy that I really like than a guy that's really, really, maybe really awesome at his job. Mm-hmm. That's really the big thing, is those relationships that you build along the way, some that get really strong, some that are acquaintances. But, when I think back to that Truro team, like if any of you guys ever came out west and didn't call me, I'd be upset, kind of thing. But it's that camaraderie that you build with your teammates, and you live with that forever. And the way that I was treated in Truro by you guys and everybody else on that team and the community, it built a lot of my I guess morals and views on life, because it teaches you so much.
Man, golden answer, Carts. Is there anything else that you want to bring up there that I didn't ask you? You think I should have hit?
Oh, I mean, we could be here for hours, buddy. So
Okay. All right then. Josh, you got anything else then before we get off here?
No, this has been really great. I mean, here we are, 24, 25 years later since we really got to know each other. I know we knew each other a little bit before that, but and to get on this call, it's been pretty special to go back and also to see how you're doing now. You look great, and I'm glad you're happy.
Thanks,
That's all we can ask for.
It's been awesome, guys, and I really appreciate you reaching out and having me on here. And I really look forward to all the other guys getting on here and all the other interviews that you're gonna pull out here. It's gonna be fun to watch for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. And that is for everybody. If we want to get people involved here, share this interview with people that want to hear it. All the boys want to hear Carter talk. And also we will be reaching out to other people as we go along. There's no particular order. We're just going to see what we can do and get to everybody over time. So we're looking forward to it. Carts. And by the way, I will say to everybody, get in the comments section too, because it's really fun. Like, reach out to Carts and reach out to us and say that you've seen it, you liked it. We've seen a few guys from last week already and on the show in general do that. And it just brightens my day to see that somebody's listening. It's like, hey man, I saw that. That was fun and great. Glad to see you're doing well. It's just so exciting, right? So please get in the comments and do that, guys. Well, I guess that's it. So again, as Josh said, I'm really glad to hear you're doing well. And I just hope everything just keeps continuing for you. Success in hockey and in your business and your life and your family. Happy New Year to you and yours and beyond, Carts. Josh, any? Okay.
That sums it up.
That sums it up. All right, man. We'll keep in touch then, Carts. And everybody else, we'll see you next time.
I don't know. Should I do the Piercy? What's the hold up? Open the door.
Yes, you should.